Welcome to April. April, first Tuesday. How did that happen? Man, I guess we've been having too much fun out there. Well, hello. I gotta wave. She could be a princess wave. All right, so we have a really exciting evening plan for you guys tonight. This is, if you didn't know, Animal Cruelty Prevention Month. Did you guys know that? So, in honor of that and our four-legged friends that don't always get to have a voice for themselves, we wanted to honor them tonight and do a little something to really educate us all, because if I'm totally honest and transparent with you, I'm not 100% up to speed on all of the new animal laws and animal cruelty laws and really some of the changes that have been made. But the good news is this: our police department took very seriously crimes against animals, right? And unfortunately, we see them in our valley. So much so that we had to create a unit that does nothing but handle cases against animals. And I always tell people that work in sexual assault that I could never do their job, because it's really a horrific job. And then the only other job that I couldn't do after that is internet crimes against children, because it's just horrific. And now I have a new one that I could never do, Sandy Southwell, you're awesome, is crimes against animals. I would be a vigilante, I think. Right? Somebody hurts these animals. So that's why we wanted to bring you guys together tonight and really shine a spotlight on some of the tragedies that we see throughout our valley and give you some ammunition, some education, and some processes that you can use if you become a witness to any of these crimes. And I'll tell you, we get phone calls all the time at the station that are, we're at the dog park and some guy's dog attacked my dog, what rights do I have? Things like that. We want to make sure that you can go out into your communities, into your neighborhoods and organizations and really share this information. But before I bring up the detective and the sergeant that run that unit, I want to take a moment. As you know, we like to have a little spotlight. And we're a little behind because in December, the holidays, January, we weren't here. February, I was flitting around in India. And so now we're finally getting caught up. So we have a third quarter, which means they were so awesome, we had to honor them for a quarter, and then we put their name on a plaque and we hang it on the wall at Northwest Area Command so they are memorialized forever. And we do one internal one, which means a employee that works within our station, and then we do an external one for you, the community, for those of you that really go above and beyond in giving back to the community and helping us and taking part in our events and doing things with us. We want to make sure that you understand the gratitude and appreciation that we have for your efforts. So the first one will be third quarter. Do we have a third quarter? Yep. But you had that one teed up so nicely. All right, so for October, November, December, which is the fourth quarter, we'll work a little bit backwards. We really try to pay our respects, and a lot of times there's not enough words to say thank you. And we try not to burn out the word thank you because then they don't really mean as much. So we buy these really nifty frames, not at the dollar store, and then we make, just kidding, and then we make these write-ups so you can share them with your families, you can take them home, and hopefully you will hang them somewhere other than your guest bathroom and let the world really see that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department truly appreciates and has profound gratitude. So if I can ask my friend Juan to come up. I know that you're here, I just don't know where you went. Oh, you're right up front somewhere. Come here, Juan. So I could really go on and on and on about how incredible this man is, but instead I'm just going to tell you that on behalf of Northwest Area Command, we'd like to express our appreciation and your efforts and those of your staff in helping our community. Thank you for all of your generosity and outreach. Your invaluable community partnerships do not go unnoticed. And whenever we're in a bind or we need something, food, water, even food and water for the homeless, He steps up without even asking why or how come. He just says, how much do you need and what time do you want me there? He is really one of the most incredible community partners we've ever had the opportunity to work with. He is part of the upper leadership and management for Sinclair and 7-Eleven all over Southern Nevada. They're expanding by the end of this year to 40 stores. So I want to just tell you that we are so appreciative. This does not do the justice for it, but I hope you will accept this. I hope you'll tell your family that your name is hanging on our wall now at Northwest Area Command. And we have this really big plaque made for you, so be careful where you hang it and take over the walls. Where is he? So it's, no, I see him. So it's a lot of fun to do the internal ones because we don't tell them and we just get to embarrass them and then they turn red and they want to like run out of the room. So this one is for Sergeant Stu the Speedo Richmond. Can you please come down, Stu? You're all clapping so loud because you know it's true. He's awesome, and he's awesome in a Speedo.
TMI.
I'm just kidding. He's from a foreign country, and in that foreign country, they might or might not partake in wearing Speedos, so we tease them about maybe possibly owning one. Sergeant Richmond, the Northwest Area Command, had to rebuild the community-oriented policing team in 2018. And we split stations and created Spring Valley. They took some of our manpower in order to stand at that station. And in doing so, it decimated our COP team. So we brought Stu in to rebuild it and give it a vision and give it inspiration. Northwest had consisted of 3 officers, and they had no sergeant for quite some time. You came in and established a partnership with our area schools, faith-based community, businesses, community groups, and partnerships that have increased the communication with the community and really developed the meaning of outreach. One of the concerns heard from the community was homelessness, which seemed to be centered around the freeway and in the flood control tunnels. You and your team quickly engaged the City of Las Vegas, City Council representatives, and the community to provide outreach to displaced individuals and cleaning up aftermath in the days these subjects were living in the tunnels. He never says no when we need something done. His team adores him and he inspires all of those around him. I could go on and tell you all of his accolades, but just trust me when I tell you he's very deserving of Officer of the Third Quarter. Oh, and you get a big plaque too. And your name will be hanging in the hallway so you can.
She's cutting that out.
So this is one of my favorite ones to do because we would be lost without them. And you're going to hear that phrase a lot tonight. But if you look around the room, these people wearing the very subtle, pale yellow shirts, those are our volunteers. And our volunteers go through the trenches for us. When we had that big snowstorm, the really big one where they closed school, they might have closed school, but guess who came to work? Our volunteers. They showed up, they wrote their handicap parking tickets, they followed up on things for us. They showed up and they didn't complain. They didn't give us anything other than accolades and the same respect and love that they do every single day. So we wanted to, this month, internally offer the awards and accolades for being totally awesome to Linda and Howard. Come up here, please. So they have been volunteering with us since 2007, if I remember correctly.
Right.
During that time, you volunteered in countless ways, and your contributions, I know, to Randy, our crime prevention specialist, He didn't have enough paper to actually write all the things that you do for him. So he said, in short, for the past 11 years, Howard, along with your volunteer partner, wife, best friend, boss.
Emphasis on boss.
Yeah, have dedicated hundreds of their evenings and afternoons leading neighborhood watch orientation meetings, newly formed groups and reestablishing ones, and really embracing opportunities to relay the vision of Northwest Area Command to these neighborhood watches. Collaborated with our crime prevention specialists to modernize efforts in providing via PowerPoint, man, fancy, to ensure the presentation of relevancy of information provided to the residents. You guys perform numerous volunteer duties on a weekly basis, help with handicap parking enforcement, sending information to victims of property crimes, tabulating, that's a good one, tabulating property crime statistics. I don't really even know what that means, so I'm glad you do. Statistics and assisting at community events such as First Tuesday, fairs, and countless other endeavors. I am so honored that you guys choose to stay at Northwest. If I ever get sent somewhere else, we're a package deal, so you make sure you come with me.
We will.
Thank you.
We have separate bathrooms. Thank you.
Picture.
Oh, picture.
Picture.
Then I don't look quite so small.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm almost done. It's just we were behind, so you have to endure one extra one. So our unsung hero for the third quarter. Anyway, third quarter? Fourth quarter. I'm gonna really get through it with a straight face. It's like I'm giving a Grammy speech and I'm trying not to cry because I'm so happy. So, if you guys didn't get the word, my assistant is retiring tomorrow. So she'll come down here, Thursday rather. Come here, pick your jaw up and come down here. So this is my administrative assistant, Marie Coleman. So if you've ever called me or tried to find me, she put up a lot of roadblocks because that's her job. Just kidding. But we've been partners now for 2.5 years. So as a captain, you get two partners. You get a right hand and a left hand. Rick is my right hand, Marie's my left hand, which means she's the brain and he's the brawn. And we've just had a really blessed union. So we wanted to honor you tonight, Marie. I'm not going to talk about you not here if you're not here. We, the management team, chose to honor you as our quarter. I'm not even looking at you. Because let me just make it very clear that our station wouldn't run without her. And I just want to give you a quick little reason about the why. Marie, how does one articulate the gravity of sacrifice that a 28-year career encompasses? I know, she started when she was 4. It's ridiculous. You are the truest example of someone who not only grew up on the LVMPD, but forced it to grow with you. Over the past 3 decades, so much has changed in the style of policing used, the expectations and needs of the community, and the way those two things blend together. But somehow you've managed to do it and flow effortlessly through all these changes and adaptations. Within your distinguished almost 3-decade career, you've worked in dispatch, Clark County Detention Center, and by the way, 2 hardest jobs in our agency. Numerous area commands, internal affairs, Office of Internal Oversight, Office of Community Engagement, and most importantly, Northwest Area Command. You've been my administrative assistant for over 2.5 years, and I count my blessings every day that our paths crossed. You've helped a baby, know nothing, green around the ears, totally eager captain slow her roll, follow instructions, and learn how to navigate the wild waters of our agency, a debt I can never repay. You're being honored tonight as our unsung hero because of your tireless dedication to our success. We know when you go on vacation or take dreaded days off, we are lost without you. Everyone at the station also knows if they want things taken care of, they go see you. You're the fixer, the miracle worker, the connector, the mediator, the negotiator, the listener, and the friend. And the best thing we ever did to promote interaction with our folks was to put a couch in our office. Because everyone wants to sit on the couch with you and share their joys and hopes and fears. The worst thing for your production we ever did was put a couch in your office. You have an uncanny way with people and making them want to open up and share. And after the tragedy of 1 October, you helped so many people through that incredibly trying time. Marie, I know you've not had an easy ride, and I'm sure there's been times where you have not felt valued or appreciated, but hopefully that all ended the day we met. Allow me the opportunity to set the record straight in front of all of these people. You are valued, you are worthy, you are irreplaceable, and you are a superstar. You are my phenomenal partner. May God bless you on your new journey, and thank you from all of us at Northwest Area Command for being our rock star. And your name is hanging in the hallway.
Oh,
You're forever.
it's in there. Oh, thank you, God.
Yes, a
Appreciate
picture.
you.
We'll do one more here. Come on. One more. Two.
Come on, Timmy.
Good.
Hello, how you doing? I'm Lieutenant Hatchett. I'm Graveyard Lieutenant for Northwest Area Command. We have one more person that we'd like to present to you guys who's an outstanding officer. We actually conducted a little video for you.
Every first Tuesday of the month, we recognize an officer. That officer receives an award, and subsequently, very few times the officers in the field recognize that officer who was presented with that award. Therefore, we're making some changes and we're having a new tradition. Here at Northwest Area Command, we'll be videotaping our officers, their recognition, their congratulations for the Officer of the Month, and we'll be broadcasting that video throughout the officers and the Northwest Area Command to recognize their hard work, dedication, and commitment to our Area Command. This month, I want to take the time to recognize Officer Sean Cody for his outstanding work on Graveyard. He was selected by all the Graveyard Sergeants to be the leader this month. He has outstanding dedication, leadership, and a commitment to the values of our department.
I'm actually very honored to be the Officer of the Month with Northwest Area Command, and I just look forward to serving Northwest Area Command.
All right. As we mentioned, we routinely bring up our individuals for the Officers of the Month, and we do this on a regular basis on our first Tuesday, but we recognize that other officers weren't aware of these officers' commitments and the values that they sustain in these, that we basically reward them for their values and their commitment to our community. So with that being said, I just want to bring up Officer Sean Cody and present him with a plaque for the Officer and Commendable Action of the month. I'd also like a Sergeant Rowe to come up for a picture with them. And I read this off to you real quick. Commendable Action, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Police Officer Sean Cody, P number 15865. Officer Cody, I would like to congratulate you for being awarded the Officer of the Month for Northwest Area Command. You have shown yourself to be a very good officer who goes above what is expected of the officer and are a confident leader around your peers. You displayed your leadership while on a shooting call with multiple victims. You quickly assessed the situation and began to render medical to one of the males who had been shot. Seeing this, a newer officer immediately followed your lead and rendered aid to the second male down. This act of bravery and concern for the citizens of Clark County allowed two victims of a violent act to survive their wounds. The capture and the survival of the citizens started with your leadership. It should be noted this suspect was recently taken into apprehension in the state of Texas for attempted murder. During a period when we had substantially increased in burglaries, you received a dispatch call from Central Security reference a burglary in progress at the business. You responded with additional units and coordinated the response of the units. The units were able to quickly take a fleeing subject into custody. A second subject retreated into the business and tried to hide from officers. Due to your quick actions, we were certain that the second male was inside and K-9 was requested. The second subject was found hiding in the ceiling of the business. These two subjects were arrested as a direct result of your ability to coordinate and respond to multiple units and support units. In addition, while you were on patrol in Northwest Area Command, You often engage in routine checks of areas that you know to have havens for criminal activity. One check was on a vehicle that was simply parked in a strange way in the area it was occupied. You began to approach the car, but it left abruptly upon seeing you approach. A vehicle stop was conducted by you and another officer. Upon conducting the vehicle stop, you observed a large quantity of marijuana that was observed and being sold in the parking lot. You took this opportunity to gain information from the suspect. That information that you obtained was forwarded to our Flex team, along with subject's information as a possible confidential informant. The subject was charged with possession of marijuana greater than an ounce. This is just one example of the investigative skills that you bring each day to your job. These investigative skills have led to the production of numerous confidential informants for our Flex team, Northwest Area Command detectives, CIU detectives, and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Narcotics Bureau. Officer Cody, I would like to thank you for your hard work during this last month. The Sheriff's focus is community engagement, and you have demonstrated your commitment to the mission. You show your dedication to the citizens of Clark County, and you live by the mantra of partners with this community. Congratulations on being named Northwest Area Command Officer of the Month.
Good. One more.
I just want to make a notation that our use of force citizen members selection board is requesting applicants. Basically what they do is they review our deadly force incidents. It's a 3-year commitment. There's some minimum criteria that's required to be selected for this position, but everybody who meets these criteria are invited to apply. We have additional packets and information available afterwards that you can come up and get. But as mentioned, it is a 3-year commitment. So this is how the selection process works. The minimum criteria is you have to be a U.S. citizen, a resident of Clark County, no felony arrests or convictions, no prior lawsuits against any police department, not a current or former department or DA employee, must read, write, and understand English, available to respond within an hour of notification when on call, must pass background investigations, could not have had an immediate family member or friend injured by police, not an immediate family member of the LVMPD, must be able to be unbiased in their decision. And then the selection proposed, LVMPD does not select representatives, but a citizen review committee is established. Recommendations can come from various community groups such as MMAC or other community chambers, fraternal organizations, etc. Selection for each panel will be through a randomized selected pool of those who pass the background. Those placed in the pool will hold a 2-year term unless removed by the Citizens Review Committee. So this is a kind of a great opportunity to get involved. You will actually participate in responding out in the field, is that correct, Captain? And you actually observe portions of the investigation, and then you actually subsequently follow up with the use of force investigation and the review panel. So it's a kind of wide perspective of what actually occurs with our investigations and how those investigations are concluded. Generally, anything deadly force, specifically shootings in nature. Anything else that I'm missing? Right. Okay. So like an in-custody death, officer-involved shootings. Say we utilized deadly force on the subject and he sustained substantial bodily harm and our fit detectives went out. Anything like that that require a response from these types of detectives, you guys would respond out in the field and actually get observation and get the follow-up of the process. But we have additional information. If you have any interest in this, we have some packets available for you. We'd like to thank Darren today from Albertsons. He brought all the food today in reference to Juan brought the pizza. Thank you very much. And Onion Restaurant. Onion Restaurant. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm learning this firsthand. And Chance, are you here from
He's there,
Michelle's
Michelle Fiori's
office?
office.
We'd like to say thank you for coming
And
today.
Sally Christensen from Starbucks Center.
Sally Christensen from Starbucks Anthony.
I saw you walk in, Sally. I just don't know where you are. Oh, okay. There you go. And then introduce you.
We also have Administrative Lieutenant here today, Rick. And we have Troy in the back who's on swing shift. And where's Carmen at? Carmen is also our day shift lieutenant. So they'll be available afterwards to speak with them, ask them any additional questions, and we'll go ahead and proceed with the presentation. We'll be talking today a little bit about animal cruelty. We brought some detectives in from our Animal Cruelty Detective Bureau. What's up? Yeah, I'll get to that. Just give me 1 second. And then we'll also bring up Deputy Chief Attorney Amy Ferreira. She'll be speaking about the prosecution side. But before we get to that, we have, I believe it's Marco, they changed the name here, Lenta, who will be talking with the City Planning Commission in regards to some of the items that are going to be changing. Is it Marco, is it Maria? Okay. All right, so I'm going to hand it over. He's going to be discussing a little bit about the master plan for Las Vegas, the City of Las Vegas going into 2050. All right. Here, I'll get
Thank you, and good evening to everybody. So I'm Marco Vallata. I'm with the City of Las Vegas' Planning Department, and I'm here today to talk briefly on this new effort launched by the Mayor and City Council. It's a new master plan that helps. It's going to help shape the future of Las Vegas for both the short term and the long term. So we've had quite a bit of change over the last 20 years. The last master plan was for 2020. It was adopted by Mayor Oscar Goodman in 2000, and it really is comprehensive in nature. It covers a variety of different issues like land use, education, parks and recreation, transportation, the economy, and public safety, and of course. Especially crime prevention and public safety. So we've seen a lot of changes that's happened over the last 20 years, but going forward, we're projected to have another 1 million people move into Southern Nevada over the next 30 years. And within that time frame, we might also have another 250,000 people move into the northwestern part of the valley or within the city of Las Vegas proper. So we're about ready to do some public feedback and on this planning effort. What we're going to do instead of asking people directly, we're going to have I've opened a poll up, and if you have your cell phone, if you text City of Las Vegas to 22333, I'm going to ask a quick question here. Just to get some general feedback on what you think the big priority of Las Vegas is. And go on to the next one here. So what we want to know from the public as we're doing outreach on priorities, what is the top issue that's confronting Las Vegas now or in the future, whether it's short term or long term. And as we've gone out to shopping centers and community centers across the community, we've started to hear back from people already. There are people that are concerned about public safety and transportation and infrastructure, especially things like water out of Lake Mead and having water available for another 1 million people that come into Southern Nevada. So as we create this plan, we get feedback. If you type in your responses through this text messaging app, City of Las Vegas at 22333. We'll be able to incorporate that into this plan for the future. We're doing public outreach right now, and at the end of the month, we're going to be developing a strategy that we'll present to our planning commission, to the mayor and city council on achieving this future vision. The rest of the year, we're going to draft the plan itself, and then by this time, 2020, we're going to present it to them to adopt. There are plenty of other ways for you to provide input to us. We do have these flyers that are floating around somewhere. I think back in the back we've got some. We'll be sure to get some on the way out. But if you want to provide input to us, masterplan.vegas is our website. You can email us at masterplan@lasvegasnevada.gov. You can give us a call at 702-229-IDEA. And my name is Marco Vallada, and I do receive all these emails and input. And I do try to respond back when possible. If you have concerns or if you have ideas to help our community make it safer and better for the future, please feel free to share it with us. We would love to hear back from you. And with that, thank you very much for letting us out here.
Next, we're going to have our animal cruelty detectives come up. It's going to be Sergeant Blake Smith along with Detective Sandy Southwell. They're going to discuss a little bit about our animal cruelty enforcement and our teams that emphasize responses in those particular fields.
I just wanted to say thank you to Sandy. She's been here since the beginning of the unit, which has been several years now. And it's possible, not sure yet, but it's very possible this might actually be her last presentation. She's decided to retire this summer, and which we're all very disappointed about, but we understand. So before I turn it over to her, I just wanted to mention that. Thank you for all your work here, Sandy. It's been a blessing, and I'd like everybody to give her a big round of applause.
Thank you, Sergeant Smith. Nice way to make me cry. Like Sergeant Smith said, I'm Detective Sandy Southwell. I've been with Metro for over 21 years. I have worked all the not-so-pleasant units to include child abuse, child homicides, elder exploitation, sex assault, sex abuse, and I'm going out my career from this unit, which I absolutely, truly love. It is definitely the hardest unit I have ever been in. Is it not working? Okay. So the Animal Cruelty Unit was created in November of 2015, so we've been here just shy of 5 years. We are 1 sergeant and 2 detectives, and we handle, between the 2 of us, we handle approximately 200 cases a year. With that, our jurisdiction is all of the city of Las Vegas and all of Clark County, to include Laughlin, Sandy Valley, and Cold Creek. So for 2 detectives, that's a lot of area to cover. We work Monday through Friday from 7 to 5, and we are on call 24/7. So, like I said, our unit was created in 2015. It was a unit that is commonly referred to as SNARL, Southern Nevada Animal Response Liaisons. It was with the Clark County District Attorney, the LVMPD, Clark County Animal Control, the City of Velocity Animal Control, and the Animal Foundation have all worked together to create SNARL. We are dedicated to the voiceless animals of Clark County. So we all don't like seeing animal fights. Well, let's watch this one. So, one of the biggest questions I get in this unit is, why do we investigate animal cruelty? Yeah, believe it or not, we get it asked a lot. So let's start with how the Animal Cruelty Unit kind of came to be. Child protection cases in the United States were first brought pursuant to animal abuse laws. Henry Berg founded the Animal Society for the Prevention, or the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in 1866. The FBI is now tracking animal cruelty crimes in our jurisdiction. School shooters also share a common feature. Prior to killing their classmates and teachers, all of the boys involved in these school shootings had performed acts of animal cruelty, such as shooting dogs, setting cats on fire, blowing up cows, and killing other small animals. These shootings occurred in Pearl, Mississippi, West Paducah, Kentucky, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Springfield, Oregon, everybody knows of Littleton, Colorado, Conyers, Georgia, and San Diego, California, which actually happened to be a female. Analysis by psychologists, sociologists, and criminologists during the past 25 years show that perpetrators of animal cruelty frequently do not stop with their animal victims. Many will move on to commit acts of violence against humans. A 1997 study of Northeastern University and the Massachusetts SPA reported that nearly 40% of animal users have committed violent crimes against people. So, as animal cruelty detectives, kind of one of the things that we handle all felony cases of animal cruelty in Clark County. We have assisted with North Las Vegas, and we have assisted with Henderson, but our primary focus is our jurisdiction, which is city and county. The deputy DA is going to go a little bit more into the NRS, but I want you to understand that an animal does not include the human race, but includes every other living creature. Torture or cruelty to the animals include any act, omission, or neglect whereby unjustifiable physical pain, suffering, or death is caused or permitted. So some of the most cases, or some of the priority cases that we in animal cruelty get, starvation, physical abuse, medical neglect, physical with injury to the animals. What are some of the other ones? Hoarding. Hoarding, yes. So we're going to skip the next one. So in 2016, we got a request from San Diego County Animal Control. They had a couple that had over 170 Yorkies in deplorable conditions. The male half was cooperative with law enforcement. The female left California with approximately 30 to 40 dogs in a motorhome. She believed to be in Primm, Nevada. There was a warrant for her arrest for felony animal cruelty. So the information that was provided to me led me to believe she probably wasn't in Primm, but she was actually at Sandstown. As I pulled up in the Sandstown parking lot, she was actually in the process of fleeing our jurisdiction. So I was able to stop her. As she jumped out of the motorhome, she was covered in dog urine and dog feces. She had actually been urinating in the empty water jugs. The dogs were in horrible condition. They were living in their own urine and feces. And she was arrested and signed a waiver and was returned to California. The dogs also were returned to California. This is a picture from her home in California when Animal Control went in to do their investigation. I took a lot of heat from this case saying that she needed mental health. But how can we get somebody mental health if we don't prosecute them? We can't force them unless we do a prosecution of the case. So with this prosecution, San Diego was able to get her into mental health therapy. Look at how many dogs that are in there. They're all little Yorkies, but some of the things that you can't see and you can't smell is the amount of feces and the amount of urine. These dogs are lacking a lot of their fur, which is hard to tell by the individual pictures. They were fearful of humans because there was so a lack of interaction with humans. So not only do you have the environmental neglect, but you have the medical neglect for all these dogs, plus the hoarding. So what do we look for in animal cruelty, and what would we ask you to look for? Excessive number of animals. The city and the county both have specific codes and ordinances to the amount of animals you can have. You typically can have 3, but you can also get permits that will allow you to have more, up to 6. Look for strong odors. When you're walking down the street, do you see a lot of cats? Do you see a lot of dogs? Do you smell the urine and the feces? A lot of howling, barking, and meowing. chronic, dirty, or matted coats. When you see the dogs walking down the street with their owners, are they encrusted with feces? Are they, do they have a strong smell of urine and feces on them? Do you see wounds or scars? Prominent ribs or hip bones? When we talk about emaciation with prominent ribs or hip bones, there is a scale that Purina uses. It's a scale from 1 to 10. We try to use that as best as we can with the weights of the dog. So what you may think is extremely skinny and emaciated may actually be normal. So we get a lot of calls from the community about a dog that would be really, really thin. So I always ask for a picture. Do you have a picture of the animal? And some people will send me a picture of a dog that is actually normal. Some people's idea of a normal dog is that little roly-poly dog that you see on the internet that weighs 50 pounds and he should only be 10. Are the animals caged up or tied up for long periods of time? Do they not have any interaction with human contact? Do they have a lack of protection from the elements? Extreme heat or extreme cold? We're getting ready to come into our hot season. I know that sounds silly, it's April, but we're getting ready to come into our 110-degree heat. I get called all the time by people who say that there's dogs in the car. As a detective, I'm in my office. I don't have the ability to run out into the fields every time somebody calls, because then I would never be home and I would be out in the streets all day long. But our first response is 911 and or animal control. If it's not hot out and you're concerned about the dog, animal control can handle the call just as well as our police officers. But one thing I want to make sure everybody understands, in the summertime when it's 110 degrees, and you leave your car running and you leave your keys in the ignition and your dog is in there and you run into that 7-Eleven, guess what's going to happen? Your car is going to get stolen. What do you think is going to happen to your dogs that are in that car? We're going to find your car 6, 7, 8 days later with your dogs dead in there from being left to the heat. And that is quite frequently in our summer months. So please, please do not take your dog with you in the car. We all love our dogs. I love my dogs. I like to take them for rides with me. But don't take them out when it's extreme heat. And please don't leave them in the car with the keys in the ignition and the motor running, because you're going to end up getting your car stolen and your dogs are going to end up dying. Is there lack of shelter for the animals? Is there coverage, even for horses? Is there cover for the horses to get out of the sun? Is there cover for the animals to get out of the sun or the cold or the rain? Are their collars too tight? Are their halters too tight? Can you see that they're so tight that they're embedded into their necks? Do you see just discharge from the eyes and the nares? Do you see them limping? There's city and county ordinances for the length of tethers and the housing, and I'm not going to go into that because specifically what my partner and I do in my sergeant, we deal specifically with those cases that rise to the level of a felony. So this is our little thief who every time I would come home with strawberries, she knew it. I thought I had them pushed far enough off the counter, but I didn't. And this was the first time I caught her. At first I accused my husband of doing it. Yeah. So one of our biggest cases that we seem to deal with right now is starvation. And I really don't understand for the life of me why it is so hard to feed your animal. It's pretty simple, it's pretty basic, and we get a horrendous amount of these cases. And these cases are felonies. Some of the reasons that I've had people tell me why they didn't feed their dog, they thought somebody else was feeding their dog in their backyard or in their home. They didn't have the money, but they had money for cigarettes and alcohol. The animal refused to eat. We hear that a lot. The animal refused to eat. When we take that animal away and we put food in front of it, those animals eat ravenously. It's not my dog. How long has it been here? Oh, 3 years. Okay. It's kind of like not my purse, not my pants. They ate or drank it already. They tip it over and I have to clean it up. You have kids, you have to clean them after them too. I don't want them to be fat. So for those of you who have children, these are somewhat graphic. So this is a starvation case. You can see everything on the dog. You can see the ribs, you can see the hip bones, you can see up the shoulder. And we like to take pictures from the top of the animal because you get a really good picture of what that animal looks like. Does anybody disagree with me that that animal's been starved? This is a survivor. It had a good outcome. The animal put on weight after, guess what, just feeding it. The owner was convicted of a felony. So we're going to talk just a little bit about blood sports. And I have to use the word sport exactly, very loosely. I prefer it as the act of pitting animal against animal. Mostly common are dogs and game fowl. It's called cockfighting and dogfighting and have been around for hundreds of years. It is now illegal in all 50 states, and it is illegal to be a spectator. So why do people do these blood sports or these acts of fighting the animal? It's money, 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 and more money. So with the dog fighting and the cockfighting, you pay money to enter your animal. You pay money to bet on the events. You pay money to the bartender. You pay money to the concession because they all have a little concession stand set up. And then after your animal wins these fights, now you can breed them and say that my animal has won X amount of derbies. It's won X amount of fights. And people will pay up to $10,000 for a dog or a fighting bird. So it is definitely all about the money. The game fowl fighting is very prevalent with narcotics and human trafficking. So you have a lot of different other crimes that are involved with these sports. You have a lot of gang violence that's also involved with these. So this dog right here, Mater, he is a survivor of an actual true bait dog. Now, people talk about a bait dog. There's not very many bait dogs out there that survive what's done to them, but Mater is a true survivor of being a bait dog. He was also deaf, so he never knew that the other dogs were growling at him. He never knew that he was about ready to be attacked. He actually just passed away in January. My daughter actually adopted him out of San Diego County, and he was recovered from a dog fighting operation. Unfortunately, he liked to eat things and ate a toy mechanical bug and unfortunately caused him to pass away. So again, these are going to be a little bit of graphic photos. So when anybody tells you that this isn't a graphic or abusive sport, look at these two dogs. This is one of the survivors. Now this dog will either continue to fight, or depending on whether it's male or female, it will be bred for the puppies. Now, I know it's kind of hard to see, but this is part of what it looks like for cockfighting. This again is very violent. It's very kind of hard to see, but down here you can see where the bird is. Around his leg is a razor blade. And then up on the other one is another razor blade on the other bird. So these birds are pit pretty much to the death. These are what's wrapped around those birds' legs. And it's illegal just to possess these blades. This is what it looks like when these spurs, which is what they're called, or gaffs, are wrapped around the bird's leg. So, for those of you in the community, you have several resources here in the valley that you can use. You have Clark County Animal Control, the City of Las Vegas Animal Control, North Las Vegas Animal Control, Henderson, and the Animal Foundation, and of course, LVMPD. We must stop the gang violence. I swear, Your Honor, the goat ate the search warrant. True story. Always watch the animals when you are on a call, not just for your own safety, but for the safety of your documents. Amy, do you want to, Deputy District Attorney Amy Ferrer, do you want to come on up? Sure. So Amy is the driving force behind all of us and what we do. Amy is the mastermind of the Animal Cruelty Unit and Snarl, and she prosecutes all our animal cruelty cases.
Hi, everybody. As Sandy said, I'm Amy Ferrer. I'm the Chief Deputy District Attorney with the District Attorney's Office. I've been on what we've called the Animal Cruelty Unit for just over 5 years. I do a lot of different sort of speaking engagements and lectures for different people in different locations, and people always ask me, why do you do all these speaking engagements? And I always very honestly tell them that misery loves company. So let me share with all of you the things that we get to do on a daily basis. So here in Nevada, as with most every other state, we have laws in effect to protect animals. Interestingly enough, for a very long time, up until probably about 10 years ago, our quote-unquote animal cruelty laws were contained within the property section of our statutes. It was a property crime to do something to somebody else's animal. If you maimed or mutilated or killed that person's animal, the law thought of it as stealing their TV, breaking the windshield on their car, because animals for a long time have been considered and treated as property. Now in our statutes, we have recognized, along with most other states, that animals are not property and deserve protection and recognition in and of themselves. Not only because we've reached a point in society where we acknowledge that animals feel the same sort of pain that humans feel, but because there is such a connection to other crimes. So I want to talk just a little bit about what the statutes are, and then of course answer any questions that you guys have. So, NRS defines animal as excluding humans, but including everything else. So when we say everything else, it literally means everything else. We've prosecuted cases most frequently involving cats and dogs, but we've had cases involving horses, goats, snakes, rats, goldfish, llamas, you name it, we've had it. And just because you might not think a certain kind of animal is cute and furry and fluffy, doesn't mean it doesn't get the same protection under the statute. It does. So we are lucky to have a statute that's so broad that allows us to sort of prosecute these cases on a wide basis. The other thing that's interesting about the NRS is we have 2 sections. One is for felony cruelty to animals. That section deals with cats and dogs and pets. The other section deals with non-pets, non-cats and dogs. The reason why this is important is because you have to ask yourself, does the little fluffy bunny that lives in a cage in your son or daughter's room feel pain any differently than the little fluffy rabbit that's hopping around in the backyard? If you do something to the one in the bedroom, it's a felony. If you do something to the one in the backyard, it's a misdemeanor. So while our laws no longer treat animals just as property, you will see some remnants of that property type thinking when you consider felony versus misdemeanor. There are exceptions. We have exceptions for hunting, of course. We have exceptions for extermination of certain pests, but all within certain laws that we need to follow to ensure that we're treating these animals appropriately. It doesn't matter, according to our laws, whether this animal belongs to you, belongs to somebody else. If it's a cat or a dog, it can be a stray cat or a dog walking down the street. So if you cause any kind of unjustifiable physical pain, suffering, death, mutilation, you're on the hook for a felony. The law also says that the harm that you cause to the animal doesn't have to just be physical. So this is kind of hard for some people to understand, but go with me here for a second. So the word suffering is defined as more than physical. So we've acknowledged that animals can feel emotional stress or pain, mental stress or pain, in addition to feeling physical stress or pain. I'll give you guys an example. Most of the time when people think about cruelty, they think about the typical case, somebody kicking a dog, or shooting a dog, or stabbing a dog. But think about a dog that's left in a cage for 23 hours a day with no human interaction. Do you think that dog is suffering? There have been cases where different specialists and experts in the field have been able to document what mental suffering is in animals. In one particular case, there were 20-something Bichons that were kept in these small cages for like 22, 23 hours a day. And what they found when they studied these animals is that even when they were removed from those cages, they would take 2 steps to the right and 2 steps to the left because they were so used to being able to pace only that distance in their crates. And so these experts found that there could be a observable, documentable change in the normal behavior of a dog based on the way they were treated. And that passed as felony cruelty to animals. So it's much broader than maybe what you think on the surface. Like I said, it can be a number of things. A good example is hoarding. A lot of times when we talk about hoarding cases, people are very quick to say, well, this person, they loved their animals. They just couldn't take care of them. That may be true, but the effect on the animal is no different. So when we talk about hoarding cases, we oftentimes talk about pain and suffering that's something other than physical. It can be physical, because there are a lot of physical problems that come along with that, but it can also be something other than physical. If you ever hear an animal control officer or a detective talk about what it's like to go into that kind of a situation, they all describe it the same way. And it's almost like they're reading, right, from a book. They all say, oh, well, I walked in and all of a sudden my eyes were burning and I couldn't breathe and I had to step outside. And then you imagine what it must be like for an animal living in those conditions day after day after day, when their nose is probably a foot off the urine and feces-soaked carpet. So there are ways that those animals suffer that are more than just physical. So our NRS allows us to prosecute all of those different kinds of crimes, whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor, whether it's a cat, a dog, or a goldfish, whether it belongs to you or to somebody else. Does anyone have any questions about the laws? Yeah?
Oh, about the laws.
Oh, or about something else?
Actually, specifically, I was told by somebody about tortoises. I don't know if they're endangered or whatever, but that the fine if you unintentionally hurt a tortoise is a certain amount versus intentionally hurting a tortoise. So I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, so in our statutes, there is a requirement for felonies that they be done willfully and maliciously. So the law takes into account that people make mistakes and that something could accidentally happen, right? Let's say, for example, you leave your cat home when you go to the store. And so at some point during the time you're gone, the cat knocks over a lamp and then jumps on the glass and cuts itself and it bleeds to death before you get home. That's not your fault, right? There's nothing willful, there's nothing malicious about the fact that you now have a dead cat. So the law does take into effect in animal cruelty statutes the intent, as do many other laws for different types of crimes. So yes, in that regard, there is a difference between an on purpose or an on accident. Yeah?
I have a question regarding what's considered shelter for animals, especially with the heat. To give you an idea, in our neighborhood, there were several neighbors that called on a resident that had a dog in a metal shed in the backyard in the summer. Animal control said there was nothing that they could do because that was considered a shelter with shade, even though it was a metal shed. It was a dirt lot, no grass. The conditions were horrible. Unfortunately, they moved from the neighborhood. We kept trying to take the dog. We asked to take the dog, asked them to surrender the dog. Animal control has no help whatsoever. Can you give me an idea of why things like that are allowed here?
Yeah, so I mean, I certainly am not the expert as to who does what and why they do or don't do it, but I can tell you that I have heard from many people that for a long time before this unit sort of took off, that they were frustrated with different responses that they were getting. So I'm certainly not going to stand up here and say that now every response is perfect. It's not. People make mistakes. Every day we learn better ways to do the things that we've been doing. In that regard, it sounds like whoever responded was looking to see if there was adequate shelter. So adequate shelter is different than, is your adequate shelter too hot for your dog to be in? There's a requirement that animals that are outside have adequate shelter. So the fact that there's a structure there technically counts as adequate structure. Does it mean there's not a crime being committed? Absolutely not. They're two different things. If that situation were to happen again, I would encourage you and everybody else to call. If it takes more than one phone call, I'm sure everyone will love me for this, but if it takes more than one phone call, call 50 times. You know what I mean? Until you get somebody out there who's gonna do something about it.
Well, it got to a point where animal control, we watched them, they just basically showed up like, hi, we're here again, and did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So, do we call you if we said this happened again?
Girl, don't call me.
We call Metro, we call animal control, you know, if we see something like this happen again. Unfortunately, like I said, we lost the dog, and we have no idea what to do.
Right. So I would, in that situation, I would start with animal control. And then you're certainly, if you think a crime is being committed, you're always welcome to call the police department, and they'll be more than happy to let you know if that's something that they can respond to or something that they can't. As you've heard, they have 3 people in the unit doing like a bajillion cases. So be patient with them. Like, I should tell anyone to be patient myself, but yeah.
How many cases do you take to trial in a year, say?
For animal cruelty?
Hmm?
For animal cruelty?
Yeah.
Okay. So I also have a split assignment. I'm also on our domestic violence unit, and that number was going to be very different, but animal cruelty. So here's the interesting thing about animal cruelty. Pretty much everybody who's charged with felony animal cruelty pleads guilty to felony animal cruelty because they're so afraid of what 12 jurors are going to do to them, which works to our advantage a lot of times. So I think there's been one. Yeah. And that was a neglect case. It's a lot easier to prove the shot, stabbed, kicked, strangled than it is failure to get medical treatment or that sort of thing. Yeah.
I have a question. There's a friend of mine who's going through something just like this I'll describe. So it's considered an active case.
Okay.
Dog got loose. Dog is microchipped. Stranger takes dog. News stories all over. Dog is still not located and returned. What happens if original owner now dies and dog later, after the original owner's death, gets located by going to the vet, getting booster shots, whatever? What if this said dog now turns up as, wow, that's the dog that belonged to this guy who now is just died? Because it's literally an active case right now, would that be considered something that would fall into felony? Because this person took the dog while it was loose, but yet there's been news stories, there's been flyers, there's been every news channel, there's been a lot of exposure. So theoretically, unless this person is homeless or completely detached from social media and the news, would otherwise we may have heard.
So that would not be anything related to animal cruelty. That would either be if the person knew, that would be like a theft, and if they didn't know, that would be like a civil court action.
Even if this dog has special training and classification?
Yeah, it's not going to be a cruelty.
And let me mention one other thing while my mind's on it, because my mind's all over the place. I also wanted to let you guys know that in our statute for animal cruelty, there's an enhancement. So you guys have all heard these stories where people want to get back at other people, and so they do things to what they care about the most, and oftentimes what they care about the most is the animals. So we see it most commonly in our domestic violence cases, like how do I really make this person angry? How do I really hurt this person? I do something to their cat or their dog. I was on our Special Victims Child Sexual Assault Unit for 4 years, and we saw it very frequently in those cases too. It was, if you don't do this, then I'm gonna do this to the dog. And then you've got this poor little kid who goes along with these terrible things because they don't want their dog to get hurt. So enhanced penalties when an act of cruelty is done to get back at another person. Sandy, were you done or did I just?
Nope, you're done. I was done.
Okay. Did I just take over? Yeah.
What is the penalty usually for a felony and for a misdemeanor offense?
So, good question.
Repeat the question, please.
Yes, the question was, what is the penalty for a misdemeanor and what is the penalty for a felony? So anything that's charged as a misdemeanor, whether it's animal cruelty or any other misdemeanor, maximum penalty is 6 months in custody. If it's a felony animal cruelty, it's a category D felony and carries 1 to 4 years in prison. If the act is done to threaten, intimidate, or terrorize another person, that enhancement, it's a C category felony and carries 1 to 5 years in prison. Yes, ma'am.
What if someone's a repeat, and they have like several misdemeanors? Does that then move them into a different category? Or?
So the question is, what if somebody has more than one of these convictions? For a misdemeanor, we have 3 main crimes that are enhanceable, meaning the more you get, the worse the punishment is. One is domestic violence. One is DUI. The other is animal cruelty. So if you were to get 2 misdemeanor convictions for animal cruelty, the 3rd one would automatically be a felony. There are also enhancements when it comes to animal fighting. Depending on what animal it is, the penalties increase. So they're all felonies, but the level of felony will increase. Oh, sorry, were you done?
No, one last thing. Can you just explain again? So a felony is if it's a person's cat, dog, or pet. It's a misdemeanor if it's like stray or no one claims it.
So if it's a stray cat or dog, it's still a felony. If it's like, I mean, it doesn't really apply here, but you know how like in some places people have horses and the horses are like plowing the fields and they're not treated as pets, they're like work animals? Those would be misdemeanors. The bunny hopping down the street or through your backyard, misdemeanor.
What about some of the cat colonies? Are they considered misdemeanor or felony?
Felony because all cats and dogs are felonies, regardless of ownership. Yeah. Yes, they're in the hat.
Do all the laws and prosecutions that you mentioned also apply to a non-profit organization? If you are, as you know, and you are aware of animal cruelty, neglect, like medical attention?
Yes, so here's the thing to remember about groups, right? Because an organization is a group and not a person. In criminal law, we can never charge a group. We can charge individual people. So if there is an individual person that we know is responsible for something, we can charge that person with animal cruelty. But you'll never see a group charged without individual names that we can prove and act on behalf of those names.
So in the case of a nonprofit organization, would the director be the person responsible?
It depends. The director has to have some knowledge and or part in and or action that they take. It can't just be, oh, well, they're the director, so they should know. In most cases, there are exceptions.
And how is this done on an investigative basis? Like everything that Sandy was talking about?
Yes.
I can refer to specific organizations that animal neglect, abuse, feeding, I can go on and on. And I'm not going to mention what, but
yeah.
So how is this, what agency or how is this really investigated? Because my understanding is the nonprofits, 501(c), really nobody has jurisdiction over it.
Well, when it comes to the animal cruelty statutes, law enforcement and animal control are the agencies that would investigate and enforce it. So you say I created the, kitty cat ranch and I'm abusing my cats, but I have, 6 people on my board. Just because I have a board doesn't mean that they know what I'm doing to those animals. So my investigation would have to entail who is actually physically hands-on with those cats. Who is the one that's there day in and day out? So it's a lengthy investigation. It's not something just as simple as, everybody knows that it's happening. When it comes to investigation, we have to have enough information to show that that person knew what they were doing it willfully and maliciously, and then we can prove that they were doing it. Now,
Would that include pictures and actual testimony?
it would include pictures, but the thing is, we have to make sure that those pictures are within our statute, our time frame. It can't be something from 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. We have to have something that's been occurring recently. And then we have to have somebody who's willing to come forward and be a witness to testify for us. Who the pictures came from, who took the pictures, and okay, how did you get those pictures? What did you do? What did you see? And come forward and actually testify for us.
So is that something that, if I really wanted to carry this further, is that something that I or my group come up?
Absolutely, yes.
Last question.
Hi, my name's Gina. I'm with the Doctors for Animals. Actually, I have two questions. The first question is about the dog Katie. I don't know if you guys saw the news story about the dog. I believe Sandy's aware, where the dog was lost for 2 months, hit by a car. The shelter gave the dog to a rescue foster in that first 72 hours. The owner was contacted. He said, I don't want that dog. It's going to cost me money. Then he changed his mind, got the dog back. So they offered him free vet care because the dog was really severely hit by a car. He refused vet care. He took the dog home. Animal control tried to go out and see the dog. He refused. It's gone several times. They finally got a warrant. He never would turn over the dog or say where the dog was at. They kept citing him. And now the dog is just gone. So is there anything at this point, because animal control, I believe, closed the case, and is there anything to be done to figure out? I mean, he pretty much, hid the evidence, and this dog is nowhere to be found. Can't he be held accountable for that? And then my second question would be, because we get this question, as you know, when it gets hot, and everyone seems to know all the laws. What are you allowed to do when you see a dog in a hot car? I know you did a video, we're going to share it, Sandy, but I need everyone here to know because everyone tells, go ahead, break the window, do this, and I just want to make sure that we get the actual, real law of what you're allowed to do when you see a dog in a hot car. So I please on the Katie and the hot car.
So as far as the case with Katie, if he rehomed that animal, there's nothing that we can do about him rehoming that animal. If the case comes to me to investigate, then we absolutely can investigate it, but the case has to come to us. But if he's rehomed that animal to somebody else, I mean, I can't.
While he's under investigation, he's allowed to just, while he's under investigation for cruelty, he's allowed to just get rid of the dog.
But he's not under investigation for cruelty with Metro.
Okay.
So I have no control over it.
Then I guess we'll all have to start emailing Clark County Animal Control to have them forward the case to you. Is that what he said? I'm not sure what happens at this point.
You can call them and ask them to send the case over.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And then as far as breaking into cars, our NRS does not say a private citizen can break into a car. Okay? With that being said, if you go out and you see that the dog, and we've had this before, the dog is fine, it's in the car, he is not in distress, you can call and wait for animal control and or LVMPD to arrive. Those are the things that most people seem to forget. They see a dog in a car, they automatically panic and they want to start smashing in windows. I'm going to tell you, most of the time the door is unlocked anyways. So you need to wait for us. With that being said, I am personally not going to fault you. I don't think the district attorney's office is going to charge you. If that dog, you see that dog actively seizing in that car, and you try the doors and they're not open, and Metro tells you we're 2 hours out, and Animal Control tells you they're 2 hours out, I don't think anybody's going to fault you for getting that dog out of that car. But with that being said, I also want to caution you, don't automatically cool that dog off. Don't throw it in ice. Don't pour water on it, shove it in front of an air conditioner, because you're now going to throw that dog into hypothermia and you're going to cause just as much damage as the heat. And we have seen that twice last year.
We're going to reshare your videos. So
Okay.
It'll be on the Nevada website. It's a great video, and
Animal Cruelty team, Blake, and also especially Amy. Amy's working with Northwest Area Command to develop some videos in relation to both animal cruelty and specifically domestic violence. And a lot of times we don't recognize, even us as officers, that the two go hand in hand together. So with that being said, one more round of applause for these guys. Great job. Our COP team is available right off here to the right, my right, your left. They're available for questions afterwards. Also the lieutenants, myself, Troy in the back, the swing shift, and Lieutenant Carmen Donegan for day shift is always available for any questions that you have. And lastly, we want to announce the second annual Home Security and Gun Safety event. Go ahead and write this down. We'll also have it plastered up here. It's going to be May 4th. It's going to be from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And the location is at Centennial High School. Citizen awareness is the best form of crime prevention, so come get involved. So the biggest problem we're having, especially Northwest Area Command, and this is just a reminder for everybody, people are failing to lock up their guns. And when people fail to lock up their guns or they leave their guns in their car, what happens is bad guys get them. Okay, and bad guys specifically are going to people's houses, including law enforcement, looking and seeking out guns. Okay, and with those guns, they're committing crimes. Those crimes are occurring against your neighbors, each other, and even police officers. So please, if you own any firearms, lock them up each and every day, and also do not leave them in your cars.
Your underwear drawer doesn't count as a locked up device. Your gun is not protecting your underwear when you're not home. It doesn't protect your center console. Buy a safe.
And lastly, we'll have a Coffee with the Cop on April 8th, which is a Monday, from 9 to 10:30 a.m. Councilman Stravos Anthony will be there. We'll be there to discuss any concerns you have. You can go over any items that were discussed today or anything else that's occurring in your neighborhood. So anybody's welcome to attend. I'm sorry?
We've got flyers we're going to hand out.
It's going to be at the Crack Day at 7660 West Cheyenne. Okay, the Crack Day. Yeah, Cheyenne and Buffalo. Sorry about that.
What do you guys think? Good first Tuesday? And do you think that our animal cruelty DA and our detective Southwell do God's work? So thank you guys so much for the work you do every day, because it's unbelievably important and awesome. And thank you guys for coming out to support us tonight. Did you have a doggone good time?